Hello and welcome to Reading Tabby. I'm Tabitha, aka Tabby Tabs, and I got such a fun video in store today. I'm super excited about it. It's going to be part of a new series where I revisit my favorite childhood books from the very first book I read clear through 12th grade. I'm even considering doing some college favorites, but my main goal is the first book I read clear through 12th grade. I'm going to go through my TBR for this very quickly because I do have a lot of books here. I'm going to share stories after I've reread them and rewatched any film adaptations or TV show adaptations that may exist for these that I also remember watching as a kid. And let's get down to it. Starting with the first book I ever read when I was 3, my mom started me and my sister off pretty young. It is The Berenstain Bears and the Spooky Old Tree. I had to pick this up on Libby because it was checked out at the library and sold out at the bookstore. Most of these books are really popular and were kind of hard to find, so I got really lucky at the library and at the bookstore for finding, I think there was only one book that I was not able to find, and I'll talk more about that later. But then in kindergarten, going into first grade, I was super into the Boxcar Children. This is, again, the first book in the series. And I also picked up my favorite, The Mystery Behind the Wall. I don't remember why this was my favorite, so I'm especially excited to reread this and see if I can remember why I liked it so much, why it clicked with me so well. In first grade and going into second grade, then I was super into the Bailey School Kid books. This was like my introduction to Goosebumps. It's spooky light. They're all a little silly. This is the first book in the series, Vampires Don't Wear Polka Dots, but it was probably my favorite because it was about vampires and vampires were my favorite monster. So I'm sure I loved this one the best, even though I don't remember it very well. So I'm excited to reread that and see what I do remember. Then in second and third grade, I got really into the Wayside School books. I've actually reread the second book recently with my nephew. He asked me to read it aloud to him, and we had so much fun with it. It was so silly, so well done still to this day. I loved it, and I'm really excited to reread this first book because if the second one was that good, I'm sure the first one is too. Then in second grade, going into third and fourth grade, my sister and I both were obsessed with the Babysitters Club. Again, this is the first book in the series, but my favorite was probably one of Claudia's books because she was my favorite babysitter. My sister's favorite was, I believe, Dawn or maybe Stacy. I loved these books. I loved the movie. They were so inspirational. These girls were icons. I'm really excited to reread this. And then in third grade, I started getting into Roald Dahl a lot. And my favorite of his books is the BFG. I reread that one a million times. I've actually reread it recently in the last couple of years. So I decided to pick up Matilda because this was another 5-star Roald Dahl, but I don't remember it as well. And I've not reread it since probably middle school. So I'm really excited to reread this and rewatch the movie, which I have actually seen recently. But I'll rewatch it again. I love it. It's a great movie. And then in fourth grade, one of my favorite books in elementary school, this was another top 10 favorite in elementary, Black Beauty. I loved Black Beauty. I loved the movie. I loved the book. They're both different, but they have the same vibe and they will both make you cry. Oh, I just know I last reread this one in high school and I'm sure it's going to make me bawl because I remember crying even then. Then no, I did not forget. I got some Goosebumps and of course I got Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. This was so influential to me. It's 100% the reason I'm obsessed with horror today. It is probably also the reason that I love Junji Ito so much because this is spooky stories with unsettling art and he's got spooky stories with unsettling art. It's very similar in that way, even though the art styles are quite different. If you love this, you'll love Junji Ito. If you love Junji Ito, you'll love this for sure. And then for Goosebumps, I was torn on which Goosebumps to pick up. The one that I really wanted was the Haunted Mask that was checked out at the library and sold out at the bookstore. Apparently it's one of the most popular Goosebumps. So I actually picked up another of the most popular Goosebumps that the bookseller was shocked that they actually had it in stock. And the librarian was not surprised that it was not available there. But I picked up at the first, let's do the library. I picked up Welcome to Camp Nightmare. I don't remember this one very well, so I wanted to pick up one Goosebumps that I didn't remember well to see if it holds up on its own. This was one, I know I've read it, but I don't remember very much of it. These next two I remember much better because I reread them many, many times when I was younger. I have The Haunted Mask 2, which I would frequently reread whenever I read the first Haunted Mask because I liked them both. And then, of course, I had to pick up The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. This was an absolute classic. I think it's a lot of people's favorite. It's one of the most highly rated ones. I'm so excited to reread this because I remember just loving it so much. It's probably my second favorite after The Haunted Mask. And that is my TBR for this week. It is ambitious, but I'm excited. So I finished The Spooky Old Tree. It was just as cute and adorable as I remember it being. I actually remember trying to draw the art in this book as well. So I think I'm going to buy it for my youngest niece. She'll get a huge kick out of this. So will, I think, my mom and my sister, because they'll remember this book as well. But yeah, it was just so cute. I really liked it. I read 4 more books. I mean, they're kids' books. They're quick and easy reads, but I did read 4 more. So starting with the Boxcar Children, I loved this. I remember bringing this with me to the first day of first grade to show off to all my friends because I wanted them to love it as much as I did. This was so charming. This is not the cover that I remember. I wish I could have gotten a book with the covers that I remember because the cover I remember is them opening the boxcar, and this is, well, I guess it's them in a boxcar. But this was so charming, so cute. It was very nostalgic. It's just a cozy, heartwarming story. The language, because this was written originally in the 40s and 50s, the language is stilted and archaic, but there's nothing problematic in here, which I was really surprised by because I thought there'd at least be, I was expecting something just because of its age, but it was very cute, very cozy. The mystery is straightforward. Well, there's not much of a mystery. The mystery is their grandfather a good man? So it's about these kids whose parents have died and they're kind of on the run because they're afraid to go live with their grandfather since they've never met him before. And so they go and they live out in the woods essentially, and they find an old boxcar, and they find a dog as well, Watch, who I'd forgotten all about. I couldn't believe I forgot about Watch. I also couldn't believe that I'd forgotten that I picked up a habit from this book that I still maintain and I was doing just last week. So one of the things that these kids do is they go to a dump and they find a bunch of silverware and plates and bowls and stuff. And while there, they only find spoons, and there's a couple of rusty spoons. So they clean them up, get the rust off, and when Henry comes back after working for the day and buying food for them, he brings butter for their bread. And they're all, well, we didn't find any knives, so how are we going to butter our bread? And he says, let me show you a magic trick. And he turns the spoon around and he uses the end of the handle as a knife. I do that. I still do that. I did that last week. I could not believe it when I read this. I was like, this must have been where I picked that up, because I know I read this book a million times and it clearly was influential to me in more ways than I even remembered. I know this encouraged me to be a voracious reader. I know it made me want to be a writer. I remembered that, but I did not remember it teaching me to use a spoon as a knife. I thought that was really funny. And then, of course, The Mystery Behind the Wall. I had to reread this to remember why it was one of my favorite Boxcar Children's. Another one of my favorites was The Hidden Painting, which I kind of wish I'd also picked that up, because after rereading this one and loving it again, and the first one, I wanted to reread The Hidden Painting as well. I might pick it up tomorrow and still reread it because this was so cute. Why was this one of my favorites? Well, let me tell you. In this book, the mystery is Benny and his friend Rory decide to saw a hole between their rooms so they can communicate with cups on a string. And when they saw the hole in between the walls, they find a hidden piece of cloth and a hidden diary belonging to the little girl that lived in this house before their grandpa bought it. And the little girl hid her coin collection somewhere in the house. So the mystery is them trying to find this coin collection. I collected coins when I was little, and at the end of this book, all the kids become coin collectors as well. So I think I must have just related really hard to that and loved that they were looking for a coin collection and I collected coins and then they collected coins. So I was just like, I'm just like them. They're just like me. I really looked up to these kids when I was little. They were clearly very influential to me. I don't actually even remember if I started coin collecting because of this book or if I started beforehand, and my parents couldn't tell me either. But absolutely adorable, loved it. Then I reread Vampires Don't Wear Polka Dots, and Miss Jeepers, icon. She is so stylish and so cool and so spooky and funny. I thought that this was such a good time. I will say that you don't get any answers at the end of these books, and it was only after I finished reading it that I remembered that I'm pretty sure that's the case for all of them, where you're kind of left thinking, is this really a vampire? Is it really a mermaid, a werewolf, a yeti, an alien? You're never quite sure from what I remember. It leaves it up to you to decide, and I kind of liked that. So it does give you all the hints that she is perhaps a vampire. She's allergic to garlic, she stays up all night, she's from Transylvania in Romania, which the kids point out is the home of Count Dracula, so obviously. However, at the very end, of course, they say, after all, Liza agreed, vampires don't wear polka dots. I can't believe we ever thought she was a vampire. I can believe it. She was spooky and she was stylish too. I thought this was so much fun, honestly. I kind of want to reread more of these as well. I'm going to talk with my sister and see if we can't remember what some of our other favorites were. And I know I bought some of these books for my nibblings as well, but I bought like random ones depending on the price point. And that was like, I don't know, a good 10 years ago now. I can't remember if they still have them or what books I actually bought for them. So I'm going to have to confer with my sister. But I loved this and I kind of want to read more of them. I thought it was really, really cute. And then I read Sideways Stories from Wayside School. And this was very nostalgic as well. Now, I did reread the second one recently, but it was about a year ago now, and I'm trying to remember if in that book they called kids fat like they do in this one, because that was, most of this book is really silly, but that chapter about the three Erics, and they all have nicknames that are kind of normal, except for one who's literally nicknamed Fatso. And there's later point in the book where he has dialogue in other chapters, and the dialogue is, Fatso said. I was just like, holy shit, that does not sound cool to me. That's not very nice. Now, these kids are kind of rude and rambunctious and a little bit awful. They call each other names. They call each other smelly and ugly, and you don't taste good, and I don't like you, and they're kind of awful, to be honest, and I'd forgotten all about that. So I'm surprised that my parents weren't more anti this book. Maybe they didn't know. But I don't think it's bad for kids to read. Like I said, my nephew loves these books, and he's a good egg. He's a sweet boy, and he does not call people fatso. So I don't think it's influential in a bad way. However, it is a bit outdated with some of how it comes across. But I was also surprised in rereading this at how kind of spooky it is at times. Like, there's some body horror in this. There's dead rats that dress up as students and try and sneak into class, and I thought that was really spooky. There's the liminal space vibe of the whole 19th floor not existing, which was extra spooky as well. I thought that I did not remember this being as spooky as it was. So that was a big surprise, and probably why I like weird horror and weird fic today. Honestly, I think that's why. It has a lot to do with these books, and I do want to reread the second and third one again now, because I'm trying to remember exactly how those go. Again, they're just going to be more stories from Wayside School, but I want to see if the Fatso stuff is in those, and see if my sister remembers that too, because I was really shocked when I read that. I didn't remember it at all. But overall, all really good books. I give them all 5 stars. This one I give 4 stars because of the Fatso stuff. You know, that's something I think kids are just going to be awful sometimes. They don't need a book to tell them to do that. Kids will just be clever on their own. My nickname obviously was Tabby, and one of my nicknames for kids who would bully me was Flabby Tabby, because I've been chubby my whole life. Now, to be honest, I was kind of oblivious to most bullying, but my sister would stand up for me. And she would tell me these things, and I'd be like, I had no idea. I don't remember that. But I do remember occasionally being called Flabby Tabby when I would annoy other kids in my class. So kids are going to be cruel regardless of whether they read that in a book. So again, I don't think it's that bad. I definitely recommend Boxcar Children for young readers, Bailey School kids. This is a great jumping point to if you want them to read Goosebumps when they get a little bit older. This is perfect for, you know, first, second grade. Goosebumps probably start in like 3rd grade. But these were it was such a good time to reread these, to be honest. I had so many memories come back up. I really loved these books when I was younger, especially the Boxcar Children and the Bailey School Kid books. They were some of my favorite series. And yeah, I can't wait to read the rest of the books on my list. It is the end of the workday. I am tired. I'm not wearing makeup because it's just I'm just too tired. I was too tired today. Don't mind Miss Bonet. She's just my friend. She likes to hang out now and then. I finished the Babysitters Club on my lunch break today. Absolutely loved it. I think it totally stands up for today. Obviously, the technology is a little dated. They can be kind of silly with the way they speak. It feels a little dated at times because this is from the 80s. And there's funny ideas around Stacy's diabetes. They have, obviously, there's big campaigns around awareness of various medical issues and psychological issues these days, because I also think Christy is ADHD like I was as a kid. I still am, but I really relate hard to her. She has a little bit of a mouth on her, not in a rude way. Well, they call her rude, but it's more she just speaks her mind. She speaks what she's thinking at any one time. She doesn't think before she speaks at all. And sometimes she can be a little rude in that case. But then there's times when I felt like people were just kind of picking on her. I also didn't like when Claudia and Stacy were being kind of mean to both Christy and Marianne. I know, like, the girls are kind of, you know, they're 12 years old, so they're hitting puberty, but they're reaching different milestones at different times, and that can be difficult, especially at this age. And so it was a nice surprise to read that at the same time, because I barely remember it from the books. I read these at a much younger age than I think they were really intended for. I think they're intended for, you know, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and I was reading it when I was like 7, 8 years old. But I still really liked this book. I thought it was very charming. I think it stands up for kids today, holds up. It was absolutely adorable. And I kind of want to read a bit more of these, but I'm not going to for this video. However, I did return to the library and I picked up another Boxcar Children. I mentioned this in my Boxcar review, Boxcar Children review, that I also really liked the Hidden Painting book, and this was at the library. I just happened to check it on my lunch break to see in the catalog online if they had it in stock, and they did. So I was like, I'm gonna pick it up now because the librarian said that these are still quite popular. And the Bailey School Kids are also still quite popular, but they had this one, and I do remember owning this one. I don't remember what I thought of it. I really barely remember the Bailey School Kid books, to be honest. I remember them being silly and fun, but they weren't, aside from Vampires Don't Wear Polka Dots, which had a big impact on me, and I read that one a lot over and over again. The other ones I didn't read over and over as much, especially because my reading skills grew quite quickly. And so by the time I was reading Bailey School Kid books in, first, second grade, I was also reading, I started reading The Hobbit. And I was reading, bigger chapter books like Roald Dahl. And so these ones are, the font's quite large. There's not very many pages. So I think I was I kind of aged out of this reading wise a bit early at this series. So I didn't get to read as many of them. There was another vampire one I saw. It was called Dracula Doesn't Rock and Roll or something, but that came out in like 1999. So I was long past the Bailey School Kid books by the time that one came out. I was tempted to pick it up though, just for fun. So I'm going to read these two while watching the Babysitters Club tonight. And now I have to go pick up dinner. Don't mind me, I'm just sitting in my cozy chair in my PJs on a Wednesday night watching the Babysitters Club. I forgot how summery this movie is, so it's perfect for the middle of summer because it's set in the summer. It is reminding me so much of my childhood. I was 9 years old when this movie came out. I was 10 when we got it on VHS. That following summer, me, my sister, and all of our friends, so we grew up in a cul-de-sac in a neighborhood full of kids. And behind the cul-de-sac was a ball field, a playground, batting cages. So what me and my friends did was we tried to create our own summer camp, just like the girls in the movie do. We had like bozo games, we had art stations, we had relay races. We really tried. We had a ball game at one point because we had to take advantage of the fact we had a ball field. And it was just so much fun. We did not sell tickets that I remember, so it's not like we were making money or anything. Like they make money in the movie. But I loved this movie. I love these girls. They were so iconic, absolute total icons. I wanted to be just like them. I wanted to dress just like them, wanted to have a Babysitters Club. Oh my gosh, all the actors in this are so iconic as well. There's Larissa Oleynik, Rachel Lee Cook, classic. Marla Sokoloff is in this, whom I absolutely adore. She was Queen Bad Girl. She has the best outfits. Her and Claudia in this film are style icons for young me. I wanted to be just like them, honestly. Even now, Claudia was wearing this shirt that I wish I had today. I would wear that. It was so cute. And I'm really surprised at how serious all the problems that are occurring in this film are as well. Like Christy is lying to her friends and her family about the fact that her deadbeat dad is back in town. Claudia is experiencing issues at school. She has to go to summer school. Stacy is having this affair with an older boy. She's 13, but she made him think that she was 16 and he is 17. Totally questionable behavior there. but I'm glad they play it off as that's inappropriate. So I appreciate that about the film. It's just so charming, so nostalgic. I love everything about it. It's bringing me back to my childhood. I'm so glad I'm rewatching this. I didn't intend for this to be a film review, but it is. Babysitter's Club 1995 holds up. Totally recommend it for even kids today. I think would get a kick out of it. It's just so cute. It's so cute. It is Thursday afternoon. It is getting dark out. I only have light for a little bit longer, but I finished Matilda. This was such an enjoyable reread. Again, so nostalgic. Absolutely made my heart burst when I was reading this. I started rereading it last night, even though I intended to read the entire thing tonight. I started flipping through it, and it just, I read one word, and then I read 3 words, and then I read a chapter and another chapter, and then I read half the book. I forgot how, oh my gosh, when you start a Roald Dahl book, you really want to finish it. He leads you from word to word, chapter to chapter so well. His words are so easily digestible and read. Like you want to read the way that he writes. It's so charming. I love how much I remembered of this book. I loved the realization. So even though I remembered so much of it, I'd forgotten just how much I was influenced by Matilda in my reading choices as I grew up, because one of her favorite writers is Charles Dickens. And I remember, I think I was in like 3rd or 4th grade, and I told my grandma I wanted to read Charles Dickens, and she got me multiple Charles Dickens books. They were kid versions. I was a little upset about that because Matilda doesn't read the kids versions. She reads the full versions. But I read them. She also got me like Little House on the Prairie and Little Women and a couple of other books. It was part of a series I wish that I still had. But that brought back those memories of me and my grandma reading those books together and talking about them on the phone. And just, it was so lovely to revisit that and to remember those things. My grandma is years passed away now, but I miss her so much. And so this was good memories. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to rewatch the film, because I remember thinking when I was little that the film and the movie, or the film and the book, were so different, but that's the only real difference that I can think of, even though it's been a little while since I've seen the film. I've seen the film much more recently than I read the book, and I remember them being so different, but they're actually, I think, quite similar, aside from the fact that in the book she's English and in the movie she's American. All the basic plot points are there. Everything happens as happens in the book. And I've also seen the musical version recently, and the musical version is also a really good adaptation of the book, of the story of Matilda. And I think I might rewatch both of them tonight, even though obviously the musical wasn't from when I was a kid. I think it's really charming. I remember liking a lot of the songs in that movie. And then I reread, let's start with the Boxcar Children, The Mystery of the Hidden Painting. I couldn't remember. I know I conflated this one with The Mystery Behind the Wall, and I couldn't remember which one I liked best. Oh, no, I liked this one best. I 100%, this was my #1 favorite Boxcar Children, because as I was rereading it, I was remembering so much of it, which tells me I read this one a lot. I remembered so much of the art that I saw in here. I remember this illustration in particular. I remember dissecting this so closely to see what all the kids looked like. So I was a Violet, but I wanted to be Jessie. This is Benny, the youngest, and Henry, the oldest. I think so. Violet's meant to be 10 in this book. Henry is 14, Jessie is 12, and Benny is 6. And I love, first of all, their relationship with each other. They're so, like, thoughtlessly caring for each other. I don't mean like they're thoughtless. I mean like they don't even think twice about doing something for one of their siblings, about being thoughtful to a sibling. You know, making sure that Benny has his favorite cup, complimenting Violet on her artwork. It's just little things here and there that are so sweet and meaningful. But the book in general, this story was so exciting. I remember why I love this so much, and I think it's because it was a really thrilling Boxcar Children. So the other books, the other two books, they were quite cozy, and that's what I remember the general vibe of this series being, is quite cozy. But this book in particular was quite exciting because they find this hidden painting. It turns out to be a painting of their grandma from decades ago, and she's wearing a beautiful sapphire necklace, which her grandpa says vanished on their 1-year anniversary. Or he'd gotten it for the 1-year anniversary, and then they had a party, and it vanished that night, and they believed it was stolen. Well, the kids, in like a couple days after finding the painting, see a newspaper article with a picture of a woman wearing a necklace very similar to the one in the painting, and so they start to investigate. And they like go to this other town. They interrogate all these random adults. It's quite funny, the things that they kind of get away with, but at the same time, the things that they have to put up with, they get like threatening phone call. They're followed by a car at one point. Someone breaks into their house. I was like, oh my gosh, things happen. Things are like actually happening in this book. It was quite exciting for, you think of the age range reading this book, like 6 to 8 years old maybe, and this is really exciting for a little kid. I think this is probably why this book in particular, well, my love of the series in general for sure, but my love of this book is probably why I love Agatha Christie so much. This felt very Agatha Christie for kids. Totally cute, very adorable, but thrilling at the same time. I was so surprised by how much I really enjoyed rereading this. And then I reread Bailey School Kids, Werewolves Don't Go to Summer Camp. This is book 2 in the Bailey School Kids series. I remember, I know I own this. I know I read this a lot. Not as many times as Vampires Wear Polka Dots, because I forgot the artwork in Vampires Don't Wear Polka Dots. I remembered quite well, along with the actual story. In this one, I remembered the story, but I'd forgotten the artwork, and I don't know how I'd forgotten the artwork, because y'all, this is Mr. Jenkins, maybe werewolf, camp director. Does he look like anyone to you? I think he looks like a mix between Jake Johnson from New Girl and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Both guys that I'm kind of into, and I got to this page and I'm like, oh my God, he's hot. What? Is he not? And then I'm like, he's reminding me of someone. And I'm reading this book, and it's quite silly, but things happen that make you suspect that he is a werewolf, that make the kids suspect he's a werewolf. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my favorite romance. It's this dude. This dude and this dude are the same dude. I swear. It's so funny. So yeah, I think this book definitely had an influence on my taste in men. Maybe, definitely. But this story was so much fun. Just as much fun as Vampires Don't Wear Polka Dots, in my opinion. It does end on the same is he or isn't he thing at the end, which I don't mind. Personally, my belief in this Schrodinger's box of a story is that mythical creatures do exist in Bailey City, and this man is in fact a werewolf, and Miss Jeepers is in fact a vampire. That is my chosen belief. It is Friday. It is the end of the work week, the end of the work day. I immediately changed into my cozy, comfy clothes the moment I got home. I was gonna get in the cozy chair, but Miss Bonet is taking it over, and like I can't just move her. No, that's her chair right now. That's Miss Bonet's chair at the moment. I'm not gonna be rude and move her. I'm gonna listen to Black Beauty on audiobook. I did start it last night. It did make me start crying already. Page 4 is Black Beauty's mom telling him that she hopes he grows up to be a good boy, essentially. And I've read this book so many times. Oh my God, listen to me. I'm going to start crying again. No, I'm not going to get into it just yet. We're going to save our thoughts for after we're done with the book, even though I already know how I feel about this. Love it. And it's going to make me cry more than I already have, that I'm already doing right now, just thinking about it, just knowing I'm about to jump back into this book. Oh my God, I need to emotionally prepare. I don't know if I'm going to watch the movie tonight just because I know how emotionally devastating it can be, but I also remember how beautiful it is. So I'm debating that at the moment, but for the time being, I'm going to listen to the audiobook, finish that up, and then I'm going to build in The Sims while I'm doing that, so that hopefully it kind of mitigates some of the emotional upheaval that you feel when you read this book. We'll see. Okay. I'm going to try this one more time because I keep crying talking about Black Beauty. As you can see from the tears in my eyes right now, I had to take my glasses off because I'm like all flustered and I need to calm down. It's when I try to read from the book, because there were some lines that I'd like to share. So Black Beauty, first of all, yes, it will make you cry, but it's a great book. It really is. 100% still a 5-star read for me. I want to rebuy this, and I actually almost bought it at the bookstore today, but they didn't have a copy that I was really into. They had 2 different prints at the bookstore, and they were both kind of blah to me. And I really like this one because at the very end of the book, it actually has information on the author, information on the story, history of famous horses in fact and fiction. It has an appendix with a who's who for characters, with a definition of some of the words in the book, which little me, I mean, my mom had those 2 giant dictionaries. They were these giant leather-bound dictionaries, and when I was reading this, I got some great use out of those because I was learning a lot of new words reading this book, because it is an old-fashioned book. It was written in, I believe, 1887. It was published just like a year before Anna Sewell died. She spent the last several years of her life writing this book while she was ill, which is just, what an accomplishment to have written something like this. And she grew up a Quaker. Quakers are pacifists, and a lot of that, it goes into the book. Her love for animals, her compassion for not just the animals but the people as well, because she has there's commentary in this takes place in England during the Victorian era, and so there's commentary on classism, on wealth inequality. There's commentary on war, because at one point Black Beauty is taken to war. But yeah, this story will there's a lot in it. There's a lot to it. The lessons in it, I think, are so worth learning for young children. It is all about just being a thoughtful, kind person. And Black Beauty is a great role model for that, because as much as this horse suffers, he maintains hope, and he maintains his good spirit and his kindness. So even when people are awful to him, he's a good horse. Trying not to cry again, and I failed. Absolutely bawling all over again. Okay. currently sitting outside the Books A Million. I did some damage in there. I keep trying to film this video and people keep walking by. It's so busy here today. Everyone's looking at me. But I'm gonna film. I intended to get some Goosebumps books today, but they had even less than they had when I was here a week ago. And I think because they are having that buy one, get one 50% off sale and they're not restocking them, their collection just keeps going down. So they didn't really have anything for me. I did get a couple of other books though. I picked up, I'll do a little haul when I get home because it's busy here, but it's going well so far. I also finished my smoothie. I picked up one of these tropical cafe smoothies. It's like $10, but it was so good. It had spinach, avocado, kale, banana, strawberry, pineapple, and lime in it. And it was very delicious. And I want another one so bad, but they're so expensive. That's like a once every other week treat, I think. I'm not gonna be able to, there's no way I'm buying a $10 smoothie regularly, let alone twice in a day. Even though inside I really want to, but not gonna do it. Why am I sitting so far away, you may be wondering. It is because I want to show you something to contextualize why I've just bought another copy of The Hobbit. So let me share a little story. First, I love The Hobbit. I was raised on it, basically. My mom is a big fan of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and she raised me to be a big fan of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. When I was little, the only adaptation that existed was the animated film from the 70s. And I loved that movie. We had it on VHS. It was a recording from a TV, from when it aired on TV at some point, I'm pretty sure, because I remember it having commercials in it. Or something like that. It was interrupted at one point. But we had that. We watched it all the time. And one of my favorite things was trying to build hobbit holes with like the Legos. Not the little Legos, but like the big blocks. I'd build like hobbit holes or pyramids because I was also super into ancient Egypt. But why did I buy a new copy of The Hobbit, you may ask? And that is because when I was a baby, my mom painted me something that has been on my walls ever since I was a kid. It is still on my walls to this day. I took it down to show you all. It is the scene when Bilbo sneaks into Smaug's cave. So it's Bilbo and Smaug. I love this painting. I've taken it with me just about everywhere I've lived. I think the only place I didn't take it with me was to college because I didn't want to damage it, of course. And so that is why I had to pick up this copy of The Hobbit, because just look at that cover. That is so much like the painting. And I was just like, I was blown away, so I had to grab it. What a reason to buy a book. It matches the painting on my wall. That's why I had to have it. And then I picked up 3 others that have nothing to do with anything in this video. I picked up Body Count by Cody Crawley. This has like Mean Girls vibes. It's YA. I think it's a slasher, but it sounded interesting. And I wanted the ARC for this initially, but I wasn't approved for it. Dittoing that, another ARC that I was not approved for, but that I wanted to read is The Escape Game. This is by Marissa Meyer and Tamara Moss. I also did not realize that this is YA, but this is an escape room mystery, maybe murder mystery. Kendari Blake blurbed it, and I'm a big fan of hers, although I'm unsure if I said her name correctly just then. Apologies if that was wrong. But I am a big fan of hers, and so I'm excited to read this one because I think it sounds really interesting. Also, I like the painted edges. I thought they were pretty. And then lastly, I had to pick up another Stephen Graham Jones because I had such a good time with I Was a Teenage Slasher. So I grabbed The Killer on the Road / The Babysitter Lives. This is his double feature where you flip the book halfway through to read the next novel. I think that's such a cool device, and I'm really excited to read this and see how they relate, if they do relate at all. So I don't know if you're supposed to read them in a certain order. I'm going to look that up online before I start it, just to make sure. That's my haul, but now I'm going to get back to reading Goosebumps. Still disappointed I didn't find the Goosebumps that I was looking for at the bookstore. Why are they so popular? No, complaining about books I love being popular. That's so silly. I love that they're popular. I love that kids are still reading Goosebumps. I really do love that. And it's something that I can talk to my nibblings about, because when they were here for the 4th of July, my oldest niece, she was in the middle of a Goosebumps book at the time. So I know they're still reading those. But now, yeah, I'm going to eat some pretzels, drink my Coke Zero, and relax and read some Goosebumps. Okay, I think I've calmed down enough from Black Beauty that I can talk about scary stories to tell in the dark now. This was such a fun reread for me. I absolutely loved it. I realized I had not reread this particular collection, the first book in the collection, in a very long time, because I'd forgotten, one, how it was organized. So the stories are grouped into categories, and I'd also forgotten some of the stories in here, like how exactly they go, even though they're quite short. I don't think anything's longer than just a couple of pages. And there's a mix of poetry and songs in here as well, which is really cool. I did remember that, and I didn't actually remember what those were about, because it was the stories mainly that really stuck with me, particularly the first group of stories, which are called stories, in that they end in a jump scare where you're supposed to go as you're telling the story. I definitely memorized those and would tell them at sleepovers, tell them at summers when I come down to visit the cousins, and we'd go camp down in the holler. I'd repeat the stories that I got from here, or it'd be an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark that I was repeating, to be honest. It was a toss-up, because those were my two favorites. And then I would occasionally make up my own, inspired by how the stories in here go. And so it was really neat rereading this, remembering just how influential this was to me, how inspirational it was. And I also love, as a grown adult, because kid me 100% would not have cared about this at all, but a good chunk of the end of this is all bibliography, notes, and sources. That is so cool to me, because I knew that he'd gathered, that Alvin Schwartz had gathered these stories from various sources and put them together and edited them in such a way to be more readable for kids, of course. But I love the reading about his reasons for including certain stories, the just various notes that he has on them for why he edited them in certain ways. And then, of course, there's just the full bibliography of the sources that he used, which I am so fascinated by. And I have a feeling a lot of these are probably not digitized, because a lot of them are from like the 40s and 50s, the things that he pulled from. 1911 is this one. Blakeborough Richard, Wit, Character, Folklore, and Customs of the North Riding of Yorkshire, 1911. Yeah, that's 100% not something I'm going to be able to find online. I just know it. But I'm going to go through this still as someone who likes to write for fun, who loves horror in particular, loves folklore and legend and urban legends. I think that'd be really fun to actually scrub through the bibliography and the articles in here and see what I can't find online and read some of them, because clearly they were great sources for Alvin Schwartz, so I'm really interested in checking that out. Okay, I've been trying to film this for the longest time, and I just keep gabbing about everything and anything. I've just got a lot to say about the Goosebumps books, and I think this section is just going to be long just because I love Goosebumps. I grew up with Goosebumps. They're very influential to me as a reader, as a writer. They influenced heavily my taste in what I like regarding horror today. I love when I come across a book that reminds me of Goosebumps. and it's a grown-up adult book. I will mention that in my reviews on Goodreads if something gives me Goosebumps vibes, because it's something that, to me, makes a book better. When it has Goosebumps vibes. What are Goosebumps vibes? I don't even know that I can explain it, to be honest. It's in general, they feel summery to me, which is why I really wanted to do this series in the summer, because so many of them just scream summer to me. They scream summer break, even though one of them takes place on Halloween. I did pick that one, but these two, very summery vibes. This one takes place at a summer camp. This one would have come out in like 92, 93. I would have been 6, 7 years old. Definitely picked these up as they were coming out, by the way. I had the whole collection up through like 1999, 2000. I was still buying them then. I wish I could have found the Haunted Mask. I wish I could have found some of the Choose Your Own Adventure books, because I loved those versions of the Goosebumps as well. I'm going to try and find some on Thrift Books. But these were so much fun to reread, very nostalgic. They were both surprisingly good in that the adults weren't awful. The kids' dialogue was not really cringy at all, which I definitely reread some old Stein, some old R.L. Stein. Hell, I read some new R.L. Stein, like actually new R.L. Stein from the last couple of years, where he wrote some teenagers. And they all sounded like they were like in their 60s and 70s. It was very funny. Definitely took me out of the story. Made it not very spooky or scary, because I was laughing at the dialogue. I was just laughing at how these kids sounded. I was just like, this is a 65-year-old in like a 16-year-old's body. It was very funny. But these books hold up. Honestly, I can see why kids are still reading these today. There's not really anything pop culture-y in them. They're just classic spooky stories. So this one is a summer camp experience gone wrong. This one is a werewolf tale, of course. It has a fun dog in there as well, Wolf the dog, which leaves you with some questions. This one also leaves you with some questions, but not as many as this one does. But they were both a really good time. This one I gave a 3 on Goodreads. This one I gave a 5 on Goodreads. I'll say when I was rating all the Goosebumps on Goodreads a couple years ago, I was really trying to remember what I thought of them and what my feelings were towards them, and I couldn't remember everything accurately. I'm never going to reread them all and re-rate them all. That's not something I'll ever do, but I might re-rate this to a 4-star, up to a 4-star, and this down to a 4-star, because this one was not as exciting as I remembered it, but it was a very decent like intro to werewolf story. But honestly, I think I liked the Bailey School Kids werewolf book better. Werewolves don't go to summer camp. This was a more fun werewolf story than this one was. Also, this one had the hot werewolf dude in it. This one, no hot werewolf dude. But it was still a good time. And then the Haunted Mask 2, I'm sounding like I'm disappointed in it. I'm not. It's really just more of the Haunted Mask, and I love the Haunted Mask. I love that story of a spooky Halloween mask that becomes your real face and turns you into the creature that it is. That's just one of my favorite scary stories ever. I just absolutely loved it. Carly Beth and Sabrina in the first book return in this book, but this one actually follows the 2 boys that are constantly making fun of Carly Beth for being a scaredy cat. This is Steve and Chuck this time around, and you feel a bit more for them. You see, they're not awful kids or anything. They're just rambunctious. It's the word that I'll use for them. And this time, Steve comes across the Halloween shop, the mysterious mask shop, and he sneaks into the basement and basically steals this mask. But it was an enjoyable time. It was fun. It was very much, if you like the first Haunted Mask, you'll like this one. I can see why I would reread them together, because it does feel, this is very much a continuation of the first one, except it's not just a continuation, it's very much a retread. It feels like it's the same story. I'll just say that. This is the same story. And I'm wondering if that's true for, there's like 5 or 6 Slappy books as well. There's like Slappy, The Return of Slappy, The Return of Slappy 3, The Return of Slappy 4, Son of Slappy, Wife of Slappy. There's all these my nephew and my niece love the Slappy books. They have them all. Slappy is their favorite. I never understood that. This is the best one. Well, not this one in particular, but The Haunted Mask. Best monster. Or any of the werewolves. I also think I was conflating this with Werewolf Skin, which I would need to reread Werewolf Skin to see if that's the one that I'm actually remembering, and that I'm confusing with this one. I think they probably blended together after all these years in my brain. But I think I really liked Werewolf Skin as well. But yeah, so that was Goosebumps. It was all a really good time. I'm going to watch some more Goosebumps this afternoon. And then tomorrow I'll do a little wrap up and see if I might end up finding a few more fun books to read before the end of the day. Except I think I'm mainly just going to be watching Goosebumps. Tonight when it's dark, I'll watch Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And then I don't know if I'm going to rewatch Black Beauty. I might end up doing that maybe tomorrow. Or maybe not at all now, because I don't want to cry anymore. I'm just done. I'm tired of crying right now. It's worn me out. I really want to read more Goosebumps. I also really want to read more Bailey School Kids. So I think I'm definitely going to do that video where I follow up, and it's just a bonus video where I read more classic stories from my youth. But I'm going to do that after I browse thrift books, because I do want to try and find some of those choose your own adventures. I think they'd be so much fun. And then my nibblings, I know they don't have those, and I know they haven't seen them, and I know they'd get a huge kick out of them, and they'd absolutely love them. So I'm going to do that. Don't mind me, it's Sunday afternoon. I've been chilling today, hanging out, doing some fun reading, catching up on books that I've already started a while ago. And my dad and I also went to go see Evil Dead Burn, which I really liked. I thought it was a really good Evil Dead movie. It was it was darker than I was expecting to be, but a lot more serious. But it was still an Evil Dead film, and it had its kind of silly moments and its fun moments, and it was gory and interesting. I liked it. I thought it was a good time. I don't know if my dad liked it as much, but... And I only mention that because Army of Darkness was literally one of my favorite childhood films. So during grade school, like kindergarten through 4th grade, I was like super obsessed with Bruce Campbell. And Army of Darkness was just one of my most favorite movies. So it kind of ties in, kind of ties in. But today I also went looking for the Choose Your Own Adventure Goosebumps, which are not, I don't think you can say Choose Your Own Adventure. I'm pretty sure that's trademarked. But these are called Give Yourself Goosebumps, Reader Beware, You Choose the Scare. It was $1.99 online, so I was like, I may as well. And I picked up Welcome to the Wax Museum. Welcome to the Wicked Wax Museum, sorry. And I'm excited to try this out and see if it's as good as I remember, if it's as much fun as I remember these being. I did have this one. I also had one of the mummy ones. So I think it'll be fun. And I'm looking forward to reading through this, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to try and do this quickly and not take, another 5-10 minutes to get through the end of this. I just wanted to wrap up this video in a nice, neat little bow. I did finish Welcome to the Wicked Wax Museum last night. 5 stars still. That was so much fun. I love the Choose Your Own Scare adventure books. I wish they were more popular than they are, because finding that book in print was impossible unless I bought it on eBay. I was lucky that they're available digitally now, but at the same time, that's not how I want to buy those for my nibblings. I want the print books for my nibblings. I don't want them to have to use their tablets to read if they don't have to, especially because they're on their tablets enough as it is. They don't need another excuse to be on their tablets, to be honest. Plus, there's a certain charm in specialness to reading a print book, especially as a child, I think. And rereading all of these books in print again. I mean, obviously the Spooky Old Tree and Welcome to the Wicked Wax Museum were on my tablet, but everything else was print. Holding those pages. So many of them were actually from my childhood as well. They were editions from my childhood, and I could smell the paper on them, and they just, they smell like libraries too. But it just, oh my God, the emotions, the feelings that I got from rereading these books, rewatching these movies was so, so special. Especially remembering people that I've lost, like my grandma, or friends that I've grown apart from. Remembering the things that we used to do, the fun times that we had talking about these books. Remembering how much my grandma encouraged me in my reading and in my writing, because she was also a writer, and that might be something that I share later on. I'll share her book that she wrote and published. But this was such a fun experience to get to do, and I'm so happy that I decided to do this, because I wasn't sure I wanted to, that it would be a fun good time. And I don't know why I didn't think it wouldn't be fun. Maybe because I'm an adult now, right? Like, kids' books don't really capture you the same way when you're an adult, especially when it's one that you've read a million times as a child and you're really familiar with it. But no, this was so much fun to reread those books, to relive those memories, those feelings. Because it really did bring back so much of what I felt and remembered from my childhood in reading those. I just loved it. So thank you so much if you hung out for this whole video, this very long video. I really appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this was a fun time for you, and that encourages you to reread some childhood favorites of your own as well. I think it's a well worth the effort to do. So thank you so much. I look forward to talking more books with you in the future. Bye.